Welcome back to Fantasy Turf War, the show where 64 teams go head-to-head to see who is the ultimate champion. I am your Commissioner, Corey, on this beautiful Wednesday night, and I'm joined today by my awesome co-host, Matthew Ane from Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, we're going to do it a little different. Lauren's off tonight, so there's no rules. And we're just going to recap couple of things going on in the league and kind of short and sweet today, and we will do something that hopefully provides some value to I think you, Matt, because you're in Division 4. You're in Division 4, so you're going to learn how you're going to find out your draft order on this episode, so it's a good time to tune in. So so let's kind of catch everyone up to where we're at in the last couple weeks. It's been a crazy couple weeks. I had gone out to Anaheim for the D23 Expo. I still call it Expo, but it's not called that anymore. Lots of great content out in Anaheim for the Disney stuff. Got to meet lots of cool people and all that fun stuff. But took me a little bit out of pocket on the live side, and so we're finally kind of getting back into the rhythm of things. And so we are fully into draft season now, and so all four teams have their drafts scheduled, and we are now going through the motions of doing draft order and getting everyone set up on the platform, and we've even done one draft already, and so Division 1 has fully drafted now, and we are going to recap that a little bit later. And was an interesting experience. It was about 3.5 hours long. Got a little lengthy there, and the picks were interesting, so we'll go through that here in a little bit. But let's get to Division 4 for a second. So, Fantasy Turf War, we try to do the draft order and the divisions, and we try and do everything a little bit different, right? Because why not? And so we have totally randomized how all of this has been done, so that there's no way, shape, or form that it's been biased or whatever. And so, we saw in one of the previous videos, we did the 40-yard rush where the divisions were determined. So that was fun. And that is how Division 1 also decided their draft order. And I have the video of that. It's the backlog that's got to get posted. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to share the screen, and we're going to explain how Division 4 is going to get their draft order. All right, so there are 16 teams in each division. That's not new. Matt, what position you think you're going to get here?
I would like 9 or 10.
Okay. Well, it's completely out of your control, so that's awesome.
I think it's still going to happen.
All right, so this is fantasy football, so I thought the best way to determine fantasy draft order is to take it outside of football. And actually, it's a little bit more up your alley in that we're going to take a look at baseball as the determinant for your draft order. So, I'm going to share screens here. If it'll work. Do it. All right, let's try this. All right, well, I'm getting that ready. There we go. Look at that. Technology is great. All right, so what I have on the left side, I'm just going to click start on that. We have all 16 teams listed. And I got to get this little box here. Oh, nope, not that guy. What did I break now? There we go. All right, so I have all 16 teams listed on the left. That is everybody in the league, Division 4. Don't need to go through all those names. You can see them there. But what I've done is I've taken all of the MLB teams that are playing in the next 2 days, so Thursday, Friday. I've confirmed that all these teams are playing both days, so no one's getting shortchanged there. And there are 20 options for team pairings. So what's going to happen is I'm going to randomize the left side, all the teams. We're going to randomize it 10 times, and then it'll put it in order from 1 to 16. And then I'm going to randomize the baseball teams from 1 to 16 or 1 to 20. And then we're going to pair up, so 1 and 1, 2 and 2, so on and so forth. What we are going to do is take the total number of runs scored combined for Wednesday and Thursday for your team, and depending on what they score, is what your draft order will be. So the more runs, the better draft order. And then there's some tiebreaker rules, but we won't break into those until we absolutely need to. So hopefully these teams are scoring. So how's that sound, Matt?
Sounds fun.
All right, so here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, cool. So right now, that is your 1 through 16 rankings, and let's figure out what team they are going to be playing with. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What team do you want?
I don't even know. As long whatever one gets me 10. So let's go with the.
Chicago White Sox.
Oh no, then I'm gonna get the 16th pick. Give me the Stros, even though I'm a Yankee fan.
All right, let's see. All right, so there's your teams. So Zachary Fisher is paired up with the Milwaukee Brewers. Matthew Metzbauer is paired up with the Yankees. Matt, you have the Toronto Blue Jays.
Okay.
Jeffrey
Good shot.
Demers, you've got the Washington Nationals. Ryan Carr has the Rockies. Jesse Grund has the Guardians. Cardiacs has the Orioles. Ben Fisher has the Tigers. Fantasy Couriers, DJ Dove, JJ Wang, you guys have the Mets. Rachel, her team's being announced soon, has the Pirates. Nope, I messed that up. 10 is Rachel. Rachel has the Mets. Couriers have the Astros. 11 is the Pirates, so that's Christina Gomez over at Strange Paradigms. Rockham, they have the Padres. Casey Garcia has the Angels. Chet Atkins has the Oakland Athletics. Julius Adams has the Cardinals, and Renee Neal has the Cincinnati Reds. So, yeah, so whatever your team scores, total number of runs scored in the next 2 days, each of these teams play 2 games, one each day. I will total that up, and then we will rack and stack, and we will figure out your draft order.
Okay.
I had to pivot. This one was an interesting one as we shift back to our normal view here. So the original plan for this one was to take you guys to a water park, or represent you in a water park with a bunch of. You ever seen those big spiky balls at like the arcade or whatever it is, Yeah. So put your numbers on those and throw you down a water slide and see which one comes up first, and that would be your draft order. But timing was not my friend, and there's never enough time in the day, so I had to find something else. But I will say this is probably one of the easier ones because it's completely out of your control. So you can watch the game if you want to, or you just tune in. Division 2, they had drawn a NASCAR race was how they have determined their draft order. So they were randomly paired with a NASCAR driver over the weekend. It was a Michigan race, which actually got rained out, and so they restarted the race the next day. So Monday morning, Monday afternoon was when they figured out their draft order. So they're all set. And Division 3, who is drafting next Thursday, they drew the civics test. And so each of them are scheduling like 10 to 15 minutes with me, and we're about half done now. And they have to go through and answer 20 questions that you would find on a civics test or like a U.S. citizenship test. And, for the most part, people are pretty solid. There's been some, lower scoring ones, but it's always funny watching people react to the questions. So we'll put that video out once we get everyone up there. But, at least you don't have to take a test for this one. So.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I get to ask the questions and I don't have to actually take the test myself, because that'd have been rough.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not in that division.
Yeah, and next year we'll do a whole bunch of other crazy stuff and try and one up each other on all that stuff. But that one's a fun one. I was really hoping someone would pull Tetris, and so there's an emulator online where you can record yourself playing the game of Tetris. And it would be whatever your scores were would like rack and stack against each other, but was not drawn. So, oh well, next year.
Shoot.
maybe next year. So, all right. Well, with that being said, let's go ahead and pivot over to Division One, which they drafted. What was it, last Sunday? And it
Yes.
was an interesting experience, to say the least.
Hmm.
And you and I were on the stream for a good while. We had, I think, a total of 6 people were on the stream with us at any given point, just kind of sharing opinions and talking through things. And 3.5 hours later, we found our way through it. So yeah, but yeah. So let's go ahead and kind of walk ourselves through the draft. And I have my notes pulled up, and no surprise, right? Christian McCaffrey was one of one. He came off the board immediately because I think we talked about it in the show. You can't not, right? Like, you're not going to pass it up if you had the chance. But I think the draft took a really interesting turn pretty quickly. So kind of walk us through at least the first round, and then we'll kind of highlight some of the big notes that we saw.
Okay. Yeah, so CMC went off the board, and then CD Lamb, which was another surprising one. Then Jamar Chase, another surprising one. Then Tyreek Hill. I actually picked this team for about first 8 rounds. Bijan Robinson, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Maurice Hall, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Marvin Harrison Jr. That was an interesting one. Garrett Wilson, Jonathan Taylor, Jameer Gibbs, Puka Nakua, and Travis Etienne. That was a very interesting draft order. I mean, we're drafted 2 weeks early, and you have no idea if CD Lamb or Jamar Chase are going to get a contract done. They're talking about sitting out, and I always hate players that sit out for most of the preseason, because then they're not loose and they start off slow. So that was really crazy and a big risk to risk your first round pick on them. And then of course I picked perfectly with Tyreek Hill, and then to see Justin Jefferson still in the first round is kind of bananas for me too, since their quarterback is done for the year, their real one, not Sam Darnold. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. also pick 11. That's another crazy one, especially over like Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, Jameer Gibbs, even Puka Nakua. I mean, it's crazy that even Saquon didn't even make it in this round, right? I did. Oh, I did. Never mind. A lot of weird picks is all I got to say.
Yeah, it was interesting. I would have anticipated that running backs would have been pretty heavy in the first half of the first round, and it seemed pretty evident that people were going to try and change it up pretty quickly. And second pick overall was a receiver, which, I mean, it makes sense, right? If you're not going to get McCaffrey, you want some sort of top tier status thing. So I understand why people did that. I did not expect that many receivers to go in the first round. Yeah, it was really interesting to watch, and it was quick too. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? Like, people are kind of trying to do the exact opposite of what we did the year before, but it's always so weird because when people swing too much to the one side, they generally all end up getting like backfires on them, because then you forget that the running backs fall to a serious value. And then the guy that loaded it up running backs is usually the guy that wins your league.
Yep, and I think that became kind of evident in the last few rounds, and we'll probably jump to that a little bit later. But going for depth and where people started to pull their depth from was interesting to see, because they didn't necessarily go straight to the handcuffs. And I don't know if it was maybe the length of the draft that kind of wore people down, or just what. But I would have expected, like, if I picked up McCaffrey, I'm instantly going to go for his backup in case he goes down, because he tends to do that a lot. And some of the forethought seems to have kind of escaped the draft a little bit in those round 15, 16, 17. But again, you're crossing the 3-hour threshold at that point, so people are probably just like, get it over with. But all right, so that kind of recaps our first round. I thought overall, you can really tell that this is a league that is prepared, because they didn't. How do I put it? In most of my family leagues, when we see these drafts, someone will go, and I call it bucking the system, right? Someone will go crazy early on a pick with whether it be a quarterback, a defense, in Lauren's case, a kicker. Sorry, Lauren. And usually that triggers some sort of like avalanche, right, where they start just going off the board. And so it happened a little bit in this draft, but it didn't go crazy. And I think that's a testament to the skill of the division in that they were kind of aware that maybe this was still too early, and they didn't follow suit necessarily. So let's kind of go through some of the highlights in terms of what we think are notable picks.
Okay. Um, so I guess round one is really hard to say what was the best pick, but the best pick in round two, personally, I think was picking up Kyron Williams at the eighth pick in that round.
Yeah.
Paired that tandem of Breece Hall and Kyron Williams, super strong. And then, honestly, the tandem of Jonathan Taylor and Rashad White went against the buck of the trend of the league and ended up with two RB1s. That's really hard to do. You have two guys in the first two tiers of running backs essentially that are kind of just like, okay, cool. You just straight up just took over, like made your team really strong by having guys in the first two tiers. Whereas like when you get to the wide receivers around that point, you're already in like tier 3.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit better. You've pretty much had a better draft strategy than everybody else trying to pick up the depth in wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I appreciate that you went to like the highlights on the positive side too, right? And that you were kind of picking up like what are the better picks. But I think it's a fair exercise in that we should be able to look at some of the negative aspects too, just because I think the highs and the lows are probably your difference makers in your league, right? If there's something in your draft to look at, at the postseason, looking back kind of thing, it was probably something in the higher lows that probably did you in one way or the other. And I think, before we get on, not necessarily negative, but maybe a critical eye of it, I think looking at all of the teams' rosters after the draft, I don't think there was any team that significantly stuck out as, holy cow, they won the draft, or holy cow, they just blew their whole season based on the draft solely. And so I think, keeping that in mind, I think it's fair that we say, okay, maybe there were some missteps in the draft that we, there's one clear one, and I think there's some other major ones that could be a difference maker, and you never know. But I think what stuck out to me early on is that Malik Neighbors went in the back half of the second round, and in my opinion, that was very, very early. And so I'm not really sure what the thought process was there, or maybe they just had was really feeling something, or just what.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, Malik Neighbors is going to be good, not my second pick overall good.
Yeah.
Like, you got to pray that Malik Neighbors just gets like the volume out the wazoo. Like, he needs 160, 170 targets to return on this draft pick, and they all have to be catchable. And you have Daniel Jones throwing T2, so it's just going to be really rough to get the return on that investment.
Yeah, and also on that side, and I have the draft results pulled up, so you can see the team that picked him was the third pick overall in the draft. So they were on the back end of the snake. So their first pick was Jamar Chase, another receiver, and so their second pick to follow it up was Malik Neighbors. So they're going wide receiver, and there was probably still a lot of depth. Or if you were trying to make some sort of game-changing decision, there was still some talent out there that I probably would have gone something different. Yeah, it was just one of those odd picks to me, but maybe not as odd. And I think we covered this pretty heavily on the actual live show. In the fifth round, sixth pick in the fifth round, we had our first defense pulled, and they went straight to the 49ers defense in the fifth. And I don't think anybody in the chat in the conversation at that time was very quiet about that. So that was very early. I don't know if I've ever picked a defense that early. Lauren might have, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a mistake. And by mistake, I could call you a rook. You need to go watch a podcast or two. There's one that we're on right now. That's a great start. Don't ever do that again. Because I mean, like, let me go. What's his team name? Bam Bam, and he has a great team name. That really is disappointing. Like, Bam Bam has. I'm looking at Bam Bam's team now because now I have to pick on him, right? Bam Bam in the pick before went Cousins in the fourth again, not looking great. And then he went Cooper Cup. I like that pick. And where's Bam Bam again? And then Travis Kelsey in the second, and AJ Brown. So his team, I think if we're talking any team that lost their league, it's him.
Yeah, and it's just an objective look, right? Because what we're saying in the nicest way possible is that making a pick at that point in the draft to pull a defense, you're banking on a lot of points, and so we don't have the numbers in front of me, but you're making an assessment that all of the people that you're going to make that are being picked between your defensive pick and your next pick, you're making a bet that all of the defense is going to put up more points than any of those guys. And at that point in the draft, I don't think that's going to happen. Now we could be wrong, right? We could all be eating our words, later in the season, but I wouldn't think typically a defense is putting up that many points every week to where it's a good return of value. And when you start talking about taking tight ends back like the Gronkowski days, or maybe even Kelsey, there's an argument to be made because they would put up about as many points as wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, depending on the year and all that stuff. But you can at least make the argument that there would be enough points value added to picking him at that point versus picking up a defense in the fifth. And I just don't think that that's a good return of your draft pick there. So I would call that one probably the mistake if there was one. But again, looking at his team overall, I think he still has enough depth in the season that he'll be okay. But he's going to have some work to do for sure.
Yeah, I hate to be so mean, but the Kirk Cousins pick is also one that kind of really bothers me in his first round. In the round before, he picked Kirk Cousins over Joe Burrow, Jordan Love. He's going to have a rough time. I think he might be in the we're doing a punishment for guys that finished last.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a bold take, kind of more of a prediction. And it's more of a hypothesis than a prediction at this point because it's an educated guess. There's education behind this.
All right.
He's probably going to finish last. That's my pick.
Yeah, so there's a couple things there, right? Like, one is fantasy football, so there's inherently some trash talking. Two, he's not new at fantasy football. I think this might be his first team he's managed, but he's made it clear he's helped with teams and stuff before, so he's not new to this world. So he knows enough at least. And then, this platform doesn't do it as far as I know, but some of the other platforms will provide some sort of summary afterwards with like a report card grade kind of thing. And it's usually bullshit. But so it has to be a giant grain of salt. So, all this is educated guess until you get to the first couple weeks of the season to figure out kind of where people actually line up, which is why we arbitrarily came up with the power rankings based off of how many social media things did you register when you signed up and how many years have you played kind of thing. The actual rankings will be reflected once the teams actually start playing, which is the fair way to do it. So we don't know, but just looking at it from what we historically see, I would say this team's probably got a lot of work to do, but if they were to pick up a good player on the waiver wire or watch out for injuries or they've got a backup that sees some starting time, like they could easily make a pivot. And so it's just kind of one of those wait and sees, but I'd rather be one of the other teams than having to work uphill the rest of the season.
Poor Bam Bam. poor Bam Bam.
All right. So were there any other so we went over neighbors, we talked about the 49ers going. Were there any other picks that stuck out to you as either a high or a low, or do you think someone got away with one in terms of a deal?
Yeah. Let me pull that up real quick. So where'd it go? Yeah, so Najee Harris also in the 5th round. And remember, this is 16 man, so technically you got to add what? Subtract 4 from each round and then add it. This really would be like more like the 7th round
Yeah,
essentially,
it's a
or
sixth,
maybe
seventh.
even the 8th. Najee, for that kind of depth, going at pick 12 of round 5 in this league is a steal.
Yeah.
Um, you know, that was he's one that's like a great RB2, but lower end RB2. But for this draft, RB2 really nice. And let me see his team real quick so that I can kind of actually say how good of a pick it is. Coach's desk, right? So coach's desk. Pick before that, he went Dalton Kincaid, picked up his onesie position. DK Metcalf is wide receiver 1, and then Debo Samuel, love that pick, and then Garrett Wilson. So he has 3 solid receivers, and went pretty much 0 RB until picking up Najee Harris as his 1.
That's a good point.
Brilliant pick for your first running back. Wingo and 0 RB through 5 rounds, especially in this deep of the league. And then let's see if he followed it up in the next round.
Xavier Worthy.
That is where I disagree. But, you know, he had me impressed until then. But, I mean, for me at least, it would have been Austin Eckler in that round, or it would have been, and this is just in the same round, Gus Edwards, and then possibly even, or Zach Moss. Those would have been my 3 picks over that. Worthy, yes, I understand. Like, we love Patrick Mahomes, but he's a rookie. Rashid Rice looks like he's actually going to play the full season. I think we would have heard something by now. So you kind of like took yourself out of the running for, being able to have that full, strong 0 RB team.
Yeah, Reese is one of those unknowns, right? I think we brought it up on the draft, or maybe I heard it somewhere else, but it's like the NFL tends to go, we're not going to say anything, and then all of a sudden regular season comes like, here's that suspension we were telling you about once. And, we'll see what happens. But let's see if I can go back. All right. And then what I always look at too, and it's nice that we can actually pull up the draft results for each team. So I in a 16 team, going first is almost a curse because you're locked into that 1-of-1 with Christian McCaffrey, and then you have to wait forever to get back to anything, and you have no idea what's going to be on the board. And so I always look to see if the 1st and the 16th are still viable teams, or if there's anything that crazy that sticks out. And so I pulled up Team 1, and so he went McCaffrey, Sam Laporta, Mike Evans, Jordan Love were his first 4. And so what's your take on that?
So I like where he went up until his round 5 pick, but I also probably wouldn't have picked Laporta either. So Mike Evans, and it would have been where I was picking for. I'm not in this league, but I was picking for auto draft instead. So I would have went James Cook and Mike Evans. I would have shored up my running back position, and I would have started off with a top 12 wide receiver. It would have been a fantastic start, especially that pairing of 2 receiving running backs that are going to guaranteed to probably have, McCaffrey guaranteed to have 90, James Cook to probably have about like 85 receptions, and then you would have Mike Evans to boot. That would have been a great start, and then he followed it up with Jordan Love. I definitely wouldn't have been mad, and then it would have left him freedom in this round to go with like a Jaden Reed, a Rashid Rice, a Calvin Ridley. There's a lot more options in the 5th round that he could have went and going, whereas like his second running back now is Zamir White.
Yeah.
He could have I actually even would have liked it a little better if he would have went Najee.
Yeah, that's a good point too. All right, I think that's fair. Other things that stuck out to me is they did draft 2 different defenses, which is a strategy to kind of play your matchups. They did pull their first one in the 9th, which is still a little on the early side, but at least it's better than the 5th. I probably would have waited a little bit longer, and I also don't have what the other teams were doing at this point in the draft to see like Was there a run on defenses or anything like that? Um, Let me pull up. No, that's the wrong
Let's see.
one. Where did we see the quarterback run?
Oh, that started in the second round.
Yeah, well,
We had 1, 2,
oh yeah, immediately in the second round.
3,
4.
4
Yeah, so
quarterbacks in the second round.
yeah, in the second round, Josh Allen went first. Jalen Hurts came off. Lamar Jackson, and then of course Patrick Mahomes, all went in the second round.
Yeah. And I would understand if, like, we're talking like a 2 quarterback league, where, like, okay, I want to go grab a quarterback really early, but in a 16-man league with 3 wide receiver slots, it's really unwise to go after onesie positions, especially like the quarterback when there's, you know, 13, 14 guys that are going to put up really good numbers. Yes, there's the elites that are in their own tier, the big four. But then from 5 to like 14, there's similar finishes throughout the year. And the difference of being, a top 12 quarterback and a top 14 running back is 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
So it's really like, okay, cool. I would rather have one of those guys and then be deeper at the multi-positional, uh, multi-start positions, like the running back, like the wide receiver specifically at this point, and have the depth there, so that I'm constantly having contributors. Whereas I'll just have one guy, where now I can have 3 strong pieces and just keep going.
yeah, and there's less of an argument for Josh Allen just because he's going to be in the conversation for QB1 overall for the at the end of the year at this point. I would look at Patrick Mahomes going in the tenth pick in the second round and say, okay, that was kind of the last of the run, and kind of start analyzing from there. And so the people that went after him were immediately after was Travis Kelsey, Drake London, Rashad White, the Malik Neighbors pick, and then Kenneth Walker. Jalen Waddle was still on the board at that point.
Yep.
Derrick Henry was still on the board at that point. I would
Mike Evans.
probably, yeah, Mike Evans. I can never pronounce his name right. Akane. Um, yeah, so like there, like you said, you only need one
A-Chain.
quarterback every a chain. There you go. You only ever need one quarterback a week, and you can make it work off the waiver wire or whatever it may be, if you absolutely had to, for 1 week. Whereas you have to cycle through multiple receivers, multiple running backs. I would have gone for depth. That being said, maybe it was, I want to get ahead of the game. Maybe there won't be any quarterbacks by the time I get there because you're looking at the Patrick Mahomes. That was the fourth quarterback off the board. Maybe they thought behind them was going to be the other part of that run, and so they're trying to get ahead of the game. Not sure what happened there, but looking back at it, I probably would have held out much longer, for at least Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, and gone for depth, if I wasn't going to get the number one or number two spot.
Yeah. One of the things I learned as like just a guy that's been playing fantasy football and fantasy sports in general, right? Go against the trend, right? If there's a run going, that means that other players at other positions are falling,
Yeah.
and that means you're going to catch a value, and that's the best thing you can do for your team. You know, trying to find the value amongst the riff while everybody's zigging, you zag, and you end up the one that's going to be the in the better position.
Yeah.
Hopefully nobody from Division 4 is watching this.
What
Um,
do you mean?
you know,
Hopefully they're all watching and all their friends are watching.
yeah. Well, hopefully their friends are watching, not them
Yeah, right.
though.
All right,
Just
so
joking.
so we looked at team number one. Let's take a look at quickly at the 16th team. So they had to wait till the back end of the first, but then they got the two picks back to back. So 16th pick overall was Travis. I don't know how to pronounce that last name either. Etienne.
Yes, that's it.
There you go. And Josh Allen. So they went running back, quarterback, and then they were going to wait another hour before they got back around to him. And so man, that's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I totally could have picked better. And not trying to be cocky. It's just the picks that he could have made at those points. So like even though when he came back, he put in Zay Flowers and Terry McLaurin. Like there was Amari Cooper right there, and then there
Yeah.
was Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
Like those are the two picks. The two picks that went right after his two picks. That would have been my picks. There was also Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, James Conner, T. Higgins, and like I just think the Josh Allen pick was a little bit more of a mistake too. Like he totally could have doubled up and went either running back or even wide receiver. I mean, Chris Olave, Debo, like,
Yeah.
or even Kyron Williams would have been fantastic. And then he just would have been able to do it. He could even got a quarterback in the next round. The Jordan Loves, the Joe Burrows, those would have been the guys I would have took, and it would have been a way better team for him. And you just look at what he's done with his team. If you can go back to that, it just he put himself in deep, deep trouble. Going after that, DeAndre Swift and Raheem Mostert, I think, unless A-Chain goes down, is going to lose. It's going to be more of a 60-40 split. And then Hawkinson as your tight end,
Which
he's
he's
not
already
playing until week 6.
Yep.
Yeah. And you're dealing with McCarthy not being there. Like, ugh. I'm sorry.
And that was
I
and
love
that was
Bam
actually
Bam safe.
and that was actually known prior to the draft about McCarthy and Hawkinson. So it's not like that was recent development. That was known information going into. So sometimes you draft a little early and something happens, but this is after all that came out.
Yeah, Bam Bam safe. It's this guy.
Yeah, it's this is Matthew Brown. So he was actually on the stream with us for a little while. So he's very insightful. So I would almost be curious to see what his opinion was and like how does he feel he did on the draft, and that's something we'll try and work on as we do the other 3 drafts this next week, and kind of get their own feedback of how did they feel they did, where do they feel like they nailed it or they missed the mark, and kind of get those opinions in too. But I agree.
Was he on when I was on?
I'd have to go watch the replay at double, maybe triple speed. He was on for a good little while. He might have been on right as you were logging off, or maybe right after you logged off.
Okay.
He was the one. Oh well, the high. He was. He was playing High School Musical in the background, or his kids were playing High School Musical in the background. That's why he didn't join super early.
I definitely was not there. My wife would have watched if she would have known that was going on.
Yeah.
And then I would have been allowed to play. Oh.
Yeah, my kids would have had Paw Patrol or something else on. So we're all in that boat. We're all dads. So
yeah, Coco Melon for me.
Thankfully, we've moved beyond Cocomelon now. So as long as you don't start watching Doc McStuffins, because when you find out how the series ends, you're gonna really not like it anymore. And
oh no.
Yeah, I don't know how true this is, but a semi-reliable source, the last season of Doc McStuffins, I don't know why we're talking about this on football podcast, but apparently she has been dying the entire series, and like the last few episodes, you find out that she's like basically dying of cancer, and this whole season or series, like the whole show is basically her coping with it on the way out, and it's like, oh crap.
So subliminal messages for kids.
Yeah,
that sounds like a very depressing child show.
And we watched
putting that on the docket for my children.
Yeah, and we heard about it. It's a kid show, right? So like they don't just outright say it, but someone had mentioned it, and we're like, I gotta watch this. And then like the last few episodes, she's always tired, and she's in and out of the hospital, and she's like going through like the Christmas Carol thing of like, the past, present, future of like if I'm not gonna be there kind of thing. And you're like, good lord.
Oh my.
I was like, oh my god, childhood semi-ruined, but. Anyways, we meant no disrespect to Matt when we were talking about High School Musical. Just we can all relate. So.
Oh God, yeah. Some more depressing than others, apparently.
Yeah, right. Bluey is fine. I think.
Bluey is fine.
Actually, no. I've heard some stories about what's going on in the background of Bluey too. So.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
I gotta pay attention more.
Yeah, it's something about like maybe the mom lost a kid or something like that, and it's like, man, who comes up with this stuff? That's why it should all be
God,
scripted like the NFL. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
sort of.
uh, all right. So, what do you think? Not to kind of like go through every single pick one by one kind of thing, but like let's recap in general. How do you think the first draft went? Like the first 16, first time we're doing this in this kind of format, first time we use this platform. Like, give me the good, the bad, the ugly. What was your take on it?
So the goods was some people really knew their stuff. They took advantage of of the league, not being up to snuff with knowledge, and they, you know, did exactly what you need to do. Right, you built the team, and then boom. And the bads were really weren't prepared either. You look at teams that we were just talking about, Bam Bam and High School Musical guy, and you know they did not seem prepared. And then there was others that will not finish in last and then could contend because you don't win your league at the draft, but you definitely could lose it at the draft. So there's some potential here. It's going to be an interesting league. Um, if I had to guess, not because I am the smack talker, it's a long road even for me. I still have to do my draft before I can go and say I'm going to win. But I don't see a single person from this league in the championship, truthfully.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, and that's the interesting part, right? It's like you have to critique, praise, kind of all of the above, but you actually haven't drafted yourself like your own team yet, so like you don't know where you're going to stand at the end of this too. And then
I tested the waters at least. Team
yeah,
34, you're welcome.
yeah, and then let's address that real quick too. So part of the new parts of learning the system, right? It's a new platform for us. This is full time fantasies platform, and so we're still getting used to some of these things. And there was some technical difficulties on the auto pick timer, the auto pick system, and so we had essentially proxy drafters picking on behalf of the teams that were not consistently in participation because the draft timer was ridiculously long. And so you had drafted for one of the teams. We had someone call in for one of the teams. I picked up someone who was like intermittently on and off, and so I drafted some of their team. And so we make the best decisions we can, and I think we all the teams were done justice. I don't think anyone was like lopsided. So I think everyone did a fair job there. But it was interesting, and we learned a lot. I think the marathon drafts are they're painful, and I think you could feel it at the end of the stream. We went 3.5 hours live, and I think by the end of it, we're like, all right, the last pick. All right, the last pick. Okay, we're done. Thanks. Great job, everyone. We'll see you next time. And then I think the immediate texts after that were like, I have 3 more drafts to do, and I can't do it like this. And so, we'd fix some things, and it'll be much faster, more efficient next time. And yeah. So, unfortunately, yeah. So we have implemented a timer. So now you have 30 seconds, and I think there was. I might have the number wrong. Math is not great at night. And so there's 16 teams, 17 rounds. I think you're talking about 270 picks overall, something like that. It's either 217 or 270 or something like that. And so it's a lot when you start adding in time. And so just a 30-second timer, you're cutting that about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 ish at the 30-second mark. And so it's one of those things you have to weigh out of, do you go to 45 seconds? Do you go a minute? I think a minute is too far. It's just too long. 30 seconds is not a lot, but then you also bring into perspective that you have the entire time, essentially you have 32 picks between your last decision you have to make to stay engaged. And so it forces everyone to stay at the table, don't walk away, keep on it, and then just kind of get through it. And fortunately, unfortunately, Division One was our guinea pigs a little bit, but they were all good sports about it, and I think they all had some fun with it too. And we'll have a lot more we'll say fun. We're gonna have more fun with the next two drafts, and so those two drafts, Division 4, you guys are up first at 6 p.m. Eastern Sunday, immediately followed by Division 2 at 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, and then Division 3 is rounding it out Thursday night. I forget what time they're at. But they're Thursday night after everyone's off of work. So we will have all of our teams drafted and loaded, ready to go by next weekend, not this coming weekend, obviously. So it's going to be a very busy couple weeks for all of us, but it's fun. This is the fun part, and so hopefully you guys, you're probably already watching baseball anyway, but like I don't know how much you were rooting for the Blue Jays before today, and
I'm not rooting for them. I need them to just be mediocre.
Yeah, and I had to come up with
I don't want
tiebreakers.
those early picks.
Yeah, and it's it's a blessing and a curse. And this year we just decided, hey, however you finish is your according place. But someone brought up maybe if I win the NASCAR thing, maybe I get to pick where I go and like what spot I want, and then you just preference of pick in order of finish. So we can do something like that too. I think just for getting us through this first year, we just kind of made some decisions and said, okay, we'll take this all as feedback next year, and we have, hopefully there's some physical competitions or some sort of scavenger hunt. Something. There's a whole bunch of things on the radar for next year once we get there. So, gotta get.
Damn Blue Jays already have 6 runs.
I tell you what though, that civics test, I had to edit some bleeps out. So. Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually surprised. Like I didn't know all the answers. I knew a good chunk, just because I'm kind of a government politics geek. But yeah, I was surprised on how many people knew. Like, just I can't say any of the questions, but they did. People knew their stuff, and it's good. It's comforting to know. Yeah, I would have guessed that. So maybe I need to make the questions harder next year.
I totally would have rigged it so I get about 9.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was telling them too. Is like, so I haven't disclosed. I'll give them their score so that they have it, but I won't tell them like where they are in the rankings at that point, because I don't want them to ace the first half of the test and go. I don't want to get higher than 5th, and so they just E on everything, and so like they just completely fail the test, and so it's an actual. Like you have to do as best as you think you can, and then you kind of just get dealt the cards you get dealt. But something like that, where you get to pick where your draft position is based on your score, maybe that would be a good way to do it next year. So, So we'll see. But there were no horse races I could use for you guys in your division. There was no NASCAR race until this weekend, and I didn't want to do it on Saturday and then have you draft on Sunday with like less than 24 hours notice of what your draft position is. So I tried to knock it out as fast as I could. So you'll have it. You'll have it Friday.
Next year we should totally get the first division early and do it on the Kentucky Derby. That'd be so lit.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It was interesting because I'd sent the email out to the NASCAR division for Division 2, and I did the whole rack and stack, and I don't know. Dale Earnhardt doesn't. Well, he died, but like Jeff Gordon doesn't race anymore, right? So like, I don't know anything about NASCAR, and so I was like, okay, cool. I said it, I forgot it, and then I came back the next morning. I'm like, okay, let me pull the rankings, send the email out, and I was like, oh, they didn't finish the race. I'm like, oh, it's going on right now. There's another accident and another accident and another accident. I was like, this is kind of fun, and I think it was Lauren messaged in the thread, and she's like, what happens if your driver didn't finish? I was like, well, NASCAR produces results, and that's what I'm going with, so it was fun. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, so you said you were looking for what spot in the draft were you trying to get to? Where do you think the sweet spot? 9 and 10? Okay.
Yeah. I think I could get a good running back, and then I'll have the pick of the litter on that quick turn. And that's really what I want to be. Yeah,
I think 10-12 is probably a good sweet spot. So you probably agree, like somewhere in the 10 range is probably a good place to be. just because you don't have to get locked into I have to pick the top tier guy no matter what, and you also have the frequency of being able to come back to a decision pretty soon, so you don't have to wait 32 picks between stuff. So yeah, it's probably a good spot, but we'll see. Time will tell. We are taking like the analytics of this too, so what we were able to do in the first few seasons is track how well did you draft versus how well did you finish, and so we'll actually get to see a little bit of that data too, where if like if you draft 12th, you're more likely to win year over year kind of thing. So that's some nerdy analytics stuff that you get out of this too. So
Yeah.
but it's been fun, and there's some NFL news, and we'll probably cover that next week, just when we get everything back up and running. And I've semi-recovered from 2 drafts on Sunday, and we'll cover things there. But the league's moving, and we are locked in, and we're progressing. So it's been fun. We're getting into the stride, and got some prize news to share soon, and there's some fun stuff.
Yeah, and the sad Falcon will be back.
And the sad Falcon, yeah. March 28th, my favorite day. 3/28. So, she's out doing. Lauren's out doing Lauren things. She'll be all right.
Yeah, it's nice to be 23 again.
Yeah. No, I didn't like 23. I was already in the military at that point, so I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah, I'll go back. I have no responsibilities. I did not serve, unfortunately.
23.
I was doing dumb things.
I think. Oh man, math is really not my strong suit on at night. I think 23 was when I had my oldest son.
Oh my.
I would have been close to that age, yeah, because my wife was she was on her 21st birthday kind of thing. Yeah, she couldn't drink on her 21st because she was pregnant at the time. So yeah, I think that was maybe 23. So yeah, that was probably about where I was. So. But,
wow.
Yeah, it's a military. It's different. It's like you add 10 years, and that's kind of the lifestyle you live. So I was living like I was 33.
I respect it.
Yeah, I get the gray hairs and the lifestyle, and then now I'm out, and I'm only 30. Oh shit, 34. And see, it's like I never aged.
Oh gosh, you're only a year older than me, and I don't have the grays yet, but I also have no hair.
Oh yeah, see, I don't have that problem. But yeah, I've definitely got the gray hair. My kids remind me of that every day. So, and then I just put them in front of Doc McStuffins and say, "Yeah, you want your childhood ruined? Sit down and watch this." No, I think I model my parenting off. I don't know why we're getting off tangent, but I model my parenting off of Big Daddy from Adam Sandler, the movie from late 90s, early 2000s. That's how I do it. So
I spelt my own name.
And like I remember my son beat me at a board game or something like that. One of those times where like you kind of let them get close to winning, but then you're going to make sure that you win because you still got to assert dominance kind of thing. And then he ended up beating me and started talking trash, so I sent him to his room. So, well, I still win at the end of the day. So
yeah, just squash him.
Yeah, and now I got to get him into fantasy football so he can start playing some teams and auto draft for people when they don't show up. But yeah, it's been fun. I think it's be an interesting week coming back because by this time next week we'll have already done a good chunk of the drafts, and so we'll have a really good idea of where people stand and all that too. So it'll be a good time because I'm trying to get off the screen here. There we go. But yeah, it should be fun. That 6 hours, almost 6 hours straight of drafting is going to be really interesting. But I think I found some ways to get through that a little more energetically, and so we'll have some fun with it too. So I think that timer will help.
Monster.
Yeah. But it'll be fun. It's all in good fun. I will say that I was actually looking at the divisions, and Division One is the only division that has no women in the division. So all the other
Mm.
divisions have women and drafting now. So that is a different perspective, and I think they're Gridiron Goddess. She's well prepared. Like she's already ready to go. She's already taken her civics test. She's already done her mock drafts. Yeah, so yeah, she's in good shape. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, we're good. And anything going on in your world? How's baseball treating you?
Baseball's good. Um, I'm always fighting for a championship, trying to go for 3 years in a row. Um, it's tough. At least in one league, I don't ever not come home at least a championship a year. Um, it's how my wife keeps letting me play is I never have to pay. Um,
Playing with house money at that point, right?
I've been playing with house money for at least 6 years now.
Nice.
Yeah, I've gotten to a point where, and I'm not bragging, where the wife, when we first got together, she thought it was dumb. Then she realized I took her to Nashville and to another vacation really quickly, and then it just kept rolling. And then when we had the same finances, she was like, "Okay, it's fine. Do what you want. I get a
Yeah,
vacation." You know,
I guess you're
that's
good
normally
at
how.
it.
Yeah,
So,
last year was very profitable. I won two baseball leagues and I won a football league.
wow,
Um, yeah, it was a good year. Got like $4 grand worth of prizes.
wow. Yeah, I've gone back to back. I never three-peated. I got close.
Hmm.
And last year was the first year since 2008 that I haven't made the playoffs. And so I started a 64 team show on YouTube instead. So there you go. Just doubling down.
Oh, it's always something to double down on. I promise you.
Yeah. But
Ugh.
cool. Well, I think that's about it, man. I think we've covered enough. We've done enough damage, and Lauren's probably embarrassed enough on our behalf. So, or wait, we
Yeah.
embarrassed Lauren. Whatever. Um, yeah. So tell people where they can find you, where they can keep up to date with your latest happenings and your earnings calls.
Oh man, just you know what? I'm not even gonna make the joke. Anyway, you can you can find me at Locked On Fantasy Baseball. You can wherever you podcast or YouTube. You can find me at Matthew_on_a at Twitter, X, whatever we call it. And if you want any football advice, find me on there or at Locked On Fantasy Baseball on Instagram. I'll answer any questions you got,
Cool.
unless you're in
And
my division.
yeah. And I think we'll probably be hearing or watching you at least in the draft on Sunday. But if not, we wish
Hmm.
you the best of luck. Although I say that to all the teams, but I really mean it for you. And we'll see how you do, and then we'll critique you on Tuesdays. So be prepared for that one.
Oh,
Just pick defense in the
that's
first or a
fine.
kicker in the first. You'll be all right. And
That's fine.
yeah, no
I'd
one does
probably still
that.
pull it off even if I did. Uh,
So, yeah, and you can find me at Corey Bassett NC on Twitter, X, or Fantasy Turf War and all the other stuff. But it's been fun. It's a nice little impromptu episode. I'm glad we were able to pull it off, even though we were putting kiddos to
mhm.
bed, respectively. Putting the Bluey on in the background or something. But it's been
Oh
fun,
my God,
and
yes.
we will see you probably on Sunday.
Yep.
Alrighty,
Peace
peace
out.
out.